Hello, and today we'll be going through the 2022 Paper 1 Edexcel. One more thing before I start, I'm doing online tutoring. Look in the description for more information. So for this first question, we are just asked to solve an inequality, and we can just treat this like an equal sign and rearrange for x. First, what we do is add 27 to both sides, so we have 7x is less than 35. Now we just want x, so divide both sides by 7, and we have x is less than 35 over 7, which is just equal to 5. So the final answer is x is less than 5. For the second question, we want to write 124 as a product of primes. So we just draw this factor tree, get 124, and find its factors. So we can divide by 2, so we have 2 and 62. Now 2 is a prime, so we just leave this here. We work with 62, we can half that again, so we have 2 and 31. Now notice 31 is also a prime, so you just circle this and now we're done. We can just write our answer, so it's 31 times 2 times 2, so 31 times 2 squared. Here in this next question, we have a delivery company with a total of 160 cars and vans, and we are told the ratio of the cars and vans is 3 to 7. So this is 3/10 are cars and 3/10 are the vans, because we can just add the 3 and 7 and divide it by that. Now we are also told an eighth of the cars use electricity and 25% of the cars use diesel. Let's just convert this percent to a fraction so we have the same. So 25% is the same as a quarter, and the rest of the cars use petrol. We are asked to find the number of cars that use petrol. So what we do first is find out how many cars there are, because we are told there's 160 cars and vans. Using this ratio here, we know that 3/10 of the vehicles are cars. So we do the total number times 3 over 10. So this is going to be 3 times 160 divided by 10. So we have 480 divided by 10, which means there are 48 cars. And now we want to find out how many of them are petrol. So how we do that is first find how many are electricity and how many use diesel, and then the rest are going to be petrol. So first let's find how many of them use diesel, because that's just a quarter, which is a quarter of 48, so that is going to be 12. And now we want to find how many of them use electricity. So it's an eighth of them, so we do an eighth times 48, which is going to be 6. So in total, there are 18 vehicles that are electricity or diesel, and we are told the rest are all petrol. So the number of petrol cars is going to be 48 minus 18. So it is just 30. This question is just asking us a bit on standard form and powers. First, we are asked to write this as an ordinary number. Notice we have 10 to the minus 3, which means the 1.63 is going to get shifted to the right by 3 places. So let's look at the 1. This will move 1, 2, 3 places, and the 6 will be next to it, and the 3 will be next to it. So we have 0. These 2 spots are going to become zeros. 163. That's our answer. Now we want to write this in standard form. So what we do is first put the numbers that aren't 0, so 4.38, and then we multiply by 10, and we want to see how many places forward we have to move the 4 to get back to this number. So if we want to move the 4 to the first spot, we need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So the power is 5. And here's our answer. Here we are asked to simplify 4 times 10 to the 3 multiplied by 6 times 10 to the minus 5. And we want to give our answer in standard form. So what we do is just multiply these all together. Now notice when multiplying, you can rearrange the order you multiply by. So let's do the 4 times 6 and then the 10 to the 3 multiplied by 10 to the minus 5. So 4 times 6 is 24. Then you're multiplying by 10 to the 3 multiplied by 10 to the minus 5. You just take away the 2 powers, so you get 10 to the minus 2. Now we have 24 times 10 to the minus 2, but for standard form, we want this to be 2.4, not 24. So how can we get this into 2.4? Well, we can do 2.4 times by 10. And then we still have to multiply by 10 to the minus 2. So you can think of 10 as 10 to the power of 1. So we can just combine our powers here. 1 minus 2, so it's going to be 2.4 times 10 to the minus 1. Okay, in this question we have a regular hexagon and regular pentagon, and we are asked to find this angle x. So first let's come up with a method how we're going to find this angle. Well, all we need to do is find this angle here and this angle here, because we know angles in a circle add up to 360. We'll be able to find x. So how can we find these two angles? Well, we have a hexagon and a pentagon, and we know the interior angles of those shapes. So for a hexagon, it's going to be 720 degrees, and for a pentagon, it's going to be 540 degrees. Now, there are different ways to remember this, but how I remember it is just think of how many triangles you can fit in the shape. So from a hexagon, you can make 4 triangles, and each triangle has angles of 180. So you do 180 times 4, giving you 720. Similarly, for a pentagon, you can fit 3 triangles. Now we want to find this angle. So if they all add up to 720, this angle will be 720 divided by 6, which is 120. So this angle here is 120. Now for the pentagon, we need to do 540 divided by 5, since there's 5 corners, 5 angles. This gives us 108. So this angle here is 108. And as we said, angles in a circle add up to 360. So x is just going to be 360 minus 120 minus 108, which is equal to 132 degrees. So x is 132 degrees. Here's our next question, and first we are just asked to fill in this table. So let's first do when x equals minus 1. So we just sub x equals minus 1 into here. So that will be y is equal to minus 1, and this is all squared, minus 3x, so 3 times minus 1 plus 1. Now remember, minus 1 times by itself will be positive 1. And again, we have 2 minuses, so that's going to be plus 3, and then we have the plus 1. So here is 5. Now we can sub in for y equals 2, so we have 2 squared minus 3 times 2 plus 1. This is just going to be 4 minus 6 plus 1, so it's minus 1. Now let's just do for 3 and 4. So for 3, we have 3 squared, which is 9, minus 3 times 3 plus 1. This is also 9, so we have 9 minus 9, 0, plus 1, so it's 1. And finally, we have for 4, 4 squared, which is 16 minus 3 times 4 plus 1. So it's 16 minus 12 plus 1, so we have 5. And that's our final table. Now in this next part, we are asked to draw this graph using the values we've plotted. So let's just look at the values. For x equals minus 1, we have y equals 5. So let's look at x equals minus 1. We have y equals 5. Let's put x here. Then for x equals 0, we have y equals 1. We plot this here. And then you can fill out the other points just like this. Once you've plotted all the points, you've just got to connect them. Now this is a quadratic graph, so do not connect them with straight lines. You've just got to do one curve through it all. I'll try and do it here. It's probably going to be really bad. But something like this is our graph. Finally, we are asked to find the solutions for this equation. X squared minus 3x plus 1 is equal to 0. Notice this is just the equation that we've drawn a graph of. So we are asked to find where this graph is equal to 0. So we look at the graph and we find where the y is equal to 0. Now this is here and here. So we just put x is equal to, let's read off the first point. It looks about 0.4. And we also have x is equal to here, which is about 2.5. Now for these answers, for these questions, they usually give you a range of values because it is just an estimate. as you have to read off your own graph. So anywhere reasonable will be giving you the right answer. Here are two cubes, A and B, and we are told the masses of each cube and we're given the length of each cube. Now we are asked to find the ratio between the density of cube A and the density of cube B. So what we need to remember first for this question is the formula for density, which is density, which I'll note by D, is equal to the mass over volume. So let's find the density of both cubes. To do that, we need to find their mass and volumes. We're already given their masses, so we just need to find the volume. So cube A, it has this length 3, which means since it's a cube, all the lengths are going to be 3. So to get the volume, we just do 3 times 3 times 3. So its volume is 27. Now for B, again, it's a cube with length 4 this time, so we do 4 times 4 times 4 for the volume. So the volume is 64. Now remember, we said the density is the mass divided by the volume. So for cube A, the density is going to be its mass, which is 81, over its volume, which is 27. Now this can be simplified to just 3. And we can do a similar thing for cube B. And its mass is, let's see, 128. And we found its volume as 64. This is equal to 2. So our final answer, as we just want to give our ratios in the form A to B, is just 3 to 2. Now we are given a table with cumulative data and we are asked to find its mean value. So to do this, when we have a range of values, we just take the middle point for each one. So between 0 and 10, we take it as 5, 10 and 20, we take it as 15. And you can just fill these out. Now, since we want to find the mean, we're going to add up all the different amounts of snow and divide it by how many numbers of data we have. And the number of data is just going to be the sum of all of these. So we have 8 plus 10 plus 7 plus 2 plus 3, which is going to be 30. And now what we do is, so between 0 and 10, we take 5 for the middle. We do 5 times however many times this happened, 8, plus 15 for the next band here. And the frequency of this is 10. Now we do plus 25 multiplied by its frequency, 7. Then again, 35 times by its frequency, 2, plus 45 times by its frequency, 3. So this is the sum of the average amount of snow. And since we want to find the mean, we're going to divide by how many days we actually counted the snow for, which we calculate here as 30. Now let's just simplify this a bit. So 5 times 8 is 40, plus 15 times 10, plus 25 times 775. Here we have 70, and 45 times 3 is 135. All divided by 30. Now be careful you don't make a mistake in this part of the question, because it'd be very annoying if you just lost a silly mark from here. So take your time when doing this. Now if you add all these numbers up again, you're just going to get 570 over 30. So our final answer is going to be 57 divided by 3, because we can cancel the zeros. And this is just equal to 19. So that's what we have. 19 centimeters. Don't forget, it's a measurement of centimeters. Here is a question with a cuboid and cubes stuck to each other, and we're asked to find the total surface area of this solid. So when finding the surface area, we are finding the area that is sticking out, if that makes sense, that is not covered by anything. So in this case, the only place that is not part of the surface area is this bottom area of the square, because that is covered from our view. Everything else is facing out, if that makes sense. So to work out the surface area, what we're going to do is add these faces of the cuboid. But when we do this top face, we also have to subtract this square from it, because this bit is not visible to us. Then we do the remaining 5 faces of this cube and we add them all together. So let's just do this. Okay, first let's go about finding the surface area of this cuboid. So let's just call it cuboid. And we have, first we have this front face, which is going to be 5 times 7, 35. But we have this front face and the back face, which are identical. So we just multiply this by 2. And then we also add on this. Let me get rid of this. We are also now going to add on, this and this face, which are equal to each other, which is 6 times 5, so 30. And we have to double it, 30 times 2. Now we do the bottom and top. So the bottom is going to be 6 times 7, which is 42. And we multiply this by 2. But remember, we said we have to take away this area from it because this cube is sitting on top of it. Now, one face of this cube is just going to be 16 centimeters squared because it's a cube. Every length is 4. So we just need to take away 16 from this. And if we simplify all this, we're going to get our cuboid having a surface area of 198. Now, all we need to do, let's get rid of all this. We just need to add on the remaining 5 faces of this cube. It's really hard labeling it in 3D, but I hope you get what I mean. Basically everything apart from this. And remember, we said each cube has an area, each face of the cube has an area of 16. So we do 198 plus 5 lots of these faces, which is 5 times 16. And our final answer is then going to be 278. So in this question, we have a frequency table and we are asked to fill in this cumulative frequency table. So for the first point between 0 and 50, we have 10. And for this cumulative frequency table, it's still going to be 10 because it's still between 0 and 50. Now, for the next one, we have between 0 and 100. Now, how do we find the frequency for that? Well, look, in this table, we are given between 50 and 100 and 0 to 50. So if we add these two, we're going to get from 0 to 100. So we just do 15 add 10, which is 25. Now, similarly for 0 and 150, what we do is from 100 to 150, then we add on this bit. So we do 25, add these two. And remember, for here, we already added these two. So we do 25, add this, so 50. Similarly, for 0 and 200, I think you get the pattern now. We do 30, which is 150 and 200, then add on the previous number. So we have 30 plus 50, which is 80. Again, for this, we do 5 plus 80, so 85. And finally, we do 15 plus 85, and then we get 100. And that's how we fill in the table. Now we are asked to draw this graph for the cumulative frequency. So all we do is look at our points. So when we have the range of values, we take the last value. So between 0 and 50, we take 50. So when x is 50, our y value is 10. So we look at 50 here and find 10, which is here. So here's our first point. Now again, we look for the second point, which ends at 100, and it's 25. So when x is 100, we have 25, which will be around here. And now we just fill this out for the rest of the points. Once we've plotted all our points, we have two options now. Either we can join this together with straight lines between each point, or just do it with one smooth curve. I'm going to do one smooth curve. So something like this. Now notice this point, I ignored it, and that's fine because it doesn't really lie with the other data points. So as long as it's, oh crap, I shouldn't have done that. So as long as something like this, it'll be fine and you should get the marks. Now we are asked to find an estimate for the number of days which the profit was less than 125. So what we do is look at our graph and find where the profit is 125, which will be here. So draw a line up from this, and we want the number of days which is less. So this is this whole region. So what we do is this and find the cumulative frequency up to this point, which will be, as we can see, it's going up in 2. So we have 30 here, 32, 34, 36. So the answer is just 36. And for this question, they'll give you a range of values that you're allowed to answer with because it's drawing your own graph and reading results off it. Finally, we want to give an estimate for the interquartile range. Now, what the interquartile range means is from the first quartile to the third quartile. So if we have 100 data points, which is what we're given, the first quartile will be at 25 and the third will be at 75. So we are looking for the values in between that. So on the graph, let's mark 25 and 75. Let me get rid of this because it's a bit distracting. So 25 is somewhere around here and 75 will be somewhere around here. So now we look on the graph where this corresponds to, which is about here, and 75 will be somewhere around here. So we have the profit is 100 here, and right here the profit is 195. So we just take the difference between 195 and 100, which means our answer will be £95. Okay, so after checking the mark scheme, my answer actually seems to be a little bit off. Now, this is because I rushed a bit when looking at the points and reading off the graph. So when you actually do it, please take your time. Question 11, we are asked about some ratios. Now, I really hate ratio questions, but we're just going to have to get through this anyway. And we are given 3 types of sweets, lime, strawberry, and orange, which are labeled with L, S, and O. And we're told the ratio between these are 9 to 4 to X. And Cormac is going to take a sweet from this bag. The probability that it is lime is 3/7. Now, for ratios, what you can do is divide each part of the ratio by the denominator being the sum of all of these. So we have 9/9 plus 4 plus X. So 13 plus X. Now we do this for all of them. And we are told the ratio of a lime flavored sweet is 3/7. And here we can see what is the chance of getting a lime, which is 9/13 plus X. Now we just have an equation and we have X in it and we want to find X, so we just solve this for X. Let's multiply both sides by 7 and both sides by 13 plus X. So we get 3 times 13 plus X is equal to 9 times 7, which is 63. Now we expand this bracket, so we have 3 times 13, 39, plus 3 times x, 3x is equal to 63. Let's take away this 39 from both sides. So we have 3x is equal to 24. Now if we divide both sides by 3, we're going to get x is equal to 8, and that's our final answer. Here in this question, we are being asked to express this recurring decimal as a fraction. When you want to do this, what we first do is let some variable, let's say x, be equal to this recurring decimal, so 0.117. Now what we want to do first is get the recurring decimal as the only thing after the decimal point. Let me just get rid of that. So what we can do is do 10x, as this will give us 1.17 recurring. Now if we write this out, this will be 10x is equal to 1.1717, and this is going to continue forever. Now what we want to do is find another multiple of x where we have the decimal places identical to this. So look what happens if we multiply this by 100, giving us 1000x. So if we're multiplying by 100, these two are going to move to the left. So we have 117.17, and all these 17s are going to repeat. So if you notice, let me get rid of this. Didn't want to do that. If you notice, our decimal places, the numbers in our decimal place are all the same. So if we do 1000x, take away 10x, all these decimal places, these 1717 recurrings, are going to cancel each other out. So we're just going to get 117 minus 1, which is 116. So now we have 9,990x. Nope, that is not what we have. 990x, don't make mistakes like this in the exam, is equal to 116. And how can we find x? Just divide it by 990. So this is our final answer. Because remember, x is the recurring decimal. As we said, x was equal to that. So our final answer is just 116 over 990.